Hi guys, this is Laurel, and today we're going to be creating a layout using this beautiful kit called Fleeting. It's by My Day Leon, and then we're also using the add-on set for the brushes files and for the washi tapes. We're going to create this layout here showing some of my favorite techniques for using brushes on a layout. And if you don't by chance do the 8.5 by 11 size, please don't fret because I'll have something as a workaround for you at the end of this video. So what I've done now is created a new document, and I put two shapes on the page using the shape tool, two rectangles, and we're going to use these as clipping masks, or in other words, a place or a shape that we're going to force our picture to fit into so that it looks better on our page for our purposes. So what I'm going to do now is hover my mouse between the two layers, the mask layer and the photo layer, and I hit Command on a Mac or Control on a PC and then G, and that forces that picture into that clipping mask. And so I'm going to go ahead and repeat that process after I get this picture arranged. I'm going to give it a few little nudges and grab those transformation handles with the shift key and resize that photo till it fits the way I'd like. And then I'll do the same thing with the bottom photo. So then after that, after I get my pictures in and I like the way that they're looking, there's two very cute little picture frames in there. One is a gray frame and one is a peach colored frame, and I'm going to go ahead and grab those frames and put those on my layout. And now one thing I wanted to say as well while I'm working here with those frames is that I'm not going to show you every step along the way of creating a layout in this video just for time constraints. But if you are interested in seeing my process as I create a layout completely from scratch, go ahead and leave me a comment down below, and I will, if there's enough of you that are interested, I will consider doing a video for that. So now that I've got those little picture frames on there and I've got some small clipping masks in there behind them so I can clip my pictures into them, I'm just going to go ahead and move those pictures in onto the clipping masks. I'm resizing them here because they came in pretty big sized. And then once I got that in them where I wanted to, I click the commit key to get it to stay inside that clipping mask, and I'm just resizing and moving them around using the arrow keys. And I'm going to go ahead and repeat this process with the clipping mask behind the gray frame. And just to let you know, these are pictures from my 30th high school class reunion. I got to see some of my best friends there in the top picture, as well as a lot of other great people I haven't seen in 30 years. That was a fun time. So now what I'm doing with this layout is getting my pink cardstock. I chose this color because I thought it would be a great base for the layout. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a vertical rectangle to kind of go behind that to create some visual interest. And I want a place to clip in some pattern paper because I think it just looks nicer when there's a mix between pattern paper and cardstock. So I'm just creating that rectangle, which is going to be a clipping mask for whatever pattern paper that I choose. And going through and looking at my pattern papers, I decided after I got this mask resized that I would use one of the floral papers in this set. And so now that pattern paper is on the layout, I'm going to go ahead and rearrange it so it's in the layer stack just above that clipping mask I created for it. And then I'm going to resize it and clip it in. And just so you guys know, as I go along, I'm going to be adding drop shadows and effects from the layers effects palettes. And I'm not going to show that in detail here for the sake of time. But again, if you're interested, please let me know down below. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I need something to break up the busyness between the pictures and the pattern paper. So I'm using the rectangular marquee tool, and I'm tracing around my pictures with the marching ants. And then what I'm going to do is I've created its own layer for that because that's gonna create me a mat for my photos. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill that selection with 50% gray, and then I'm gonna go ahead and turn off those marching ants or those little dashed lines that are moving. And then that's gonna allow me a place to put in another pattern paper to create a mat that will provide some contrast. So I chose this green polka dotted paper, and I'm going to clip that in using Command or Control G as soon as I get it situated where I want it. And there we go, voila, we have a pretty mat, which I've added drop shadows to. Now we're going to get out our brush tool, and we're going to use some of those word art images from Mai's brush kit, from the Fleeting brush kit. And so I stamped happy together, but I didn't want those two words so close together, so what I did was Control C for cut, and then Control V to paste it back on. And what this did for me is it created for me two separate layers now. I've got happy and together as two separate pieces that I can use and manipulate around. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do here, is move that down so that I can put some other words between that if I decide to. And then I'm going to go back into that brush. I'm going to grab the brush tool one more time and look at some other brushes. So what I'm going to do now is just grab, there's a brush that's called Friends. It's number 519 in this brush set. I'm going to go ahead and stamp that down on my paper to help me create a cute title. So what I'm going to do here is create another layer to stamp Friends on, because I don't want it on the same layer as anything else, because this allows me to move it around and work with it as I need. Okay, so then after that, I decided that I couldn't just use the brush set to create my title, so I'm kind of spacing those words out. And then what I'm going to do next is create a journaling box, because I think journaling is really important. And so I'm creating a space to hold, another clipping mask to hold some pattern paper that I'm going to journal on. So again, I use the shape tool to create a journaling box. And then what I'm going to do is grab the rectangular marquee again, and that's going to help me to like cut out a piece of this blue paper, and I'm going to drag it down and pull it onto my layout. I'm going to move that piece that I cut out over the journaling box in the layer stack and clip it in, Command or Control G. And then what I'm going to do next is I'll zoom in on my words, my title words, and I'll move them over and get them adjusted so that they line up a little bit better with our journaling box there. Sorry if I'm clearing my throat a lot. Allergies have been really, really bad this year in my area of the country. So yeah, there I go. I'm just lining it up so that the title is going to line up a lot better with that cute little journaling box that we created just now. And then I'm going to start typing in one of my favorite fonts, which is Always in My Heart Regular. I had a different cursive writing font there to make up the other words of the title, but I just really didn't like it. And Always in My Heart Regular has just kind of been a go-to font lately for journaling or things like this. So I'm changing it from the other cursive font to Always in My Heart Regular. And then the next thing I'm going to do is change the color, because I just didn't like everything being black. So the words that I stamped with the brushes, I recolored to the purple that I sampled from the pattern paper in one of the flowers. And then for this white, I used the eyedropper tool to sample white from that pattern paper. And I'm changing my words written in Always in My Heart Regular to white. Now what I wanted to do was add something to the floral border, because I thought it needed something else to kind of make the page stand out. So I'm going to go ahead and drag some rickrack up there, some purple rickrack. And I wanted to place it right above that column of pattern paper. So I'm dragging it up there, and it comes in horizontally, so I'm going to have to grab the transformation handles and hold down the shift key and kind of change it around so it's in a vertical rather than a horizontal position. And as I'm resizing it and looking at it here and going along, I'm realizing that I'd rather have the rickrack behind the paper and not on top of it. So I went ahead and moved it so it was behind. And then I'm going to create a copy of the rickrack and move it to the left side so that I have a cute border on each side of the paper. And I decided that I really like that a whole lot better. So I'm just kind of getting my rickrack there and positioning it in. And then I wanted a little something more for the journaling box, so I picked this little awesome day tab, and I'm going to move that up onto my journaling block, and I'm going to place it right at the top, right on top of that blue, just to give it a little decoration, because I just really like using fun little elements and embellishments from these kits. So I found it, I moved it over enough so I could grab it, and then I drug it over. And now I'm going to kind of see if it needs to be resized and repositioned, and I'm nudging it up and down with my arrow keys. And then I decided I wanted this little scalloped border, because I thought we just still needed a little something more to spice up that journaling tag. So I'm going to take the scallop border, and I'm going to resize it so it'll fit just above where it says Awesome Day on the journaling tag. So anyways, I thought that looked pretty good. And then finally, it was time to start doing some journaling. So I'm going to go to the text tool, And I'm going to grab Always in My Heart Regular again. And even though I don't show this part, I went up and sampled some purple again from the flower design on the pattern paper. And I'm going to type my journaling about my class reunion in this same purple and Always in My Heart Regular. So, and then what I try to, I'm using the text tool here again, as I've shown you. What I try to do is think about how much I want to say in the space that I've got, and then I'll just start typing it in. And if I feel like I need to adjust it, I'll either cut some journaling out, or I might just try and shrink the font, or sometimes I'll just adjust the size of the text box. It just kind of depends on what I'm doing. So anyways, in this one, it worked out pretty well. I was able to get everything I wanted to say on that little space. And then, because it had been a long time since we'd seen each other, and I wanted to make sure I remembered who was who, I went ahead and labeled everybody's names on there. I'm starting over here on the left. I tried the purple, but it wasn't standing out enough. So then I went and got that eyedropper tool, and I sampled out some white again from the background of that pattern paper. And I'm going to go ahead and change the font color to white. So I'm going to click on that with the text tool. I'm going to click on that purple writing there, and I'm going to click that box that says color. First I'm changing the font size to 18, and then I'm going to go over and change the color to that white I sampled out, and I'm going to go from there. And so what I did for the rest of the people in the picture was I copied this text, and then what I did with that was moved it over to the next person in the row, and I changed it to their name, and then I either moved each of these up or down a little so that it wasn't touching the other person's name, so that we could see who was who. Because I thought that was a fun way to show off who everybody was, and to make it look nice and readable. So anyways, and then the next thing I did was I wanted that little date stamp to put on the very bottom of my journaling box. So I picked this black one that says today is, and I just went ahead and sampled that purple again, the same purple I used before, and I'm just typing the date of the reunion into that little box. And you'll notice that I've got the font size a little too big, so what I'm just going to do is make the the text box a little bigger, and then I'm going to select it, and I'm going to shrink the font. I can't remember what size I chose. It looks like I chose 12, which is a good size to kind of a good place to start if you're not sure what size, and then size up or down from there. Got that on that little box, and that's looking pretty good. And then I wanted to use some of the fun little washi tapes from this kit. So I pulled up a blue one first, and I decided to put that up at the top just to add just to kind of draw the eye around. And so I went ahead and did that, and I love these tapes because you can see they're actually semi-transparent like a real piece of tape is, and they've got ripped ragged edges like you would see if you ripped a piece of tape off. So I think that's really cool, and I'm just adding a little layer style behind that to make it look more realistic. And then I went and found, I think after a bit, I found a brownish floral tape that I wanted to use, and I brought that up there. It's brownish or grayish, I can't remember. And then what I'm going to do next is do the same thing with a third little piece of green polka dotted tape, and I'm just going to layer those on top of each other. And then I wanted to pull a flower up, and at first I thought I'd use the yellow one, but it blended in too much with the washi tape that you see there, the green polka dotted, so I used this reddish pinky one. And now I'm just going to resize it so you can still see the washi tapes, and I'll add some drop shadows to anything that needs it. But I think that right now the flower just needs a drop shadow. We get that positioned in. Good. And then now we get to use some of the brushes. This is a painty set. It's by a watercolor set, and I can't link you to this one because it came to me as part of a class and it's not for sale anywhere. But I will definitely get you a link to one that's very similar. And these look like swashes of paint. They're so cool. So what I'm just doing is going down and changing the angle of the brush and brush settings and rotating it to angles that look good. There's a little circle with an arrow on one end, and I just grab that arrow from time to time and I just rotate with it. And it allows me to get these painty effects on my brush at fun angles. And I just like this brush set because it's not harsh and dark. It's really soft and subtle and adds just that fun painterly touch without being too overwhelming. So that's what I'm doing there. And then another way I like to use brushes is to create edging or distressing on the on the outside edges of my layout. So again, I went ahead and sampled that purple, and then I'm going to grab this brush. It's a set by Nancy Rojanitz, and it's a set of charcoal style brushes. And again, I don't have this exact one that I can link you to, but I can link you to one that's very, very similar and will do you pretty much the same effect. So what I'm doing now is just, I'm taking the one brush that I chose that looks like, a charcoal marking, and I'm rotating it around so that I can get both the vertical and the horizontal edges of my layout. Because I just really like the way it looks grungy and distressed and fun. So I'm going to speed up part of this so that it doesn't take quite so long, but yeah, you can just see my process of rotating the brush, stamping down on the edges of my paper, and then repeating the process pretty much until I'm done, just to give it that great painterly look. This is probably one of my favorite ways to use brushes. And so anyways, we should be getting just about done with our layout. There's only one more thing I want to add, and that is some stitching. So after I finish with my brushes, what I'm going to do now is go back to Picasa, where I store my digital supplies, and I'm looking for a stitched border. So I found this straight stitch. It was just in my stash. This one is not included in the kit, but you can use any stitch that you want if you have something similar. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these stitches up on my layout, and again they're going to come in horizontally instead of vertically. So I'm going to move them up, I'm going to put them on there, and then I'm going to grab the transformation handles and turn them so they're vertical. I can hold down the shift key, and that'll keep everything nice and straight so you don't get your stitching on there crooked. And then once I got up there, this stitching is either dark brown or it's black, and that didn't really work for me, so I went ahead and recolored it aqua with the paint bucket tool. And so I put that up there once I got it on there and resized, and then I made a copy of the aqua thread, and I'm just dragging it over there to the left side to create some symmetry and to make sure that it looks good. Anyways guys, so here's our completed page. I hope you enjoyed seeing some ways you can use brushes on a layout, and if by chance you decide you liked this layout design, I'm going to have a link in the description bar to a place where you can download some templates for free. I'll have a preview here shortly showing what they look like. This one I'm going to offer for free as a thank you for watching. In the future I will probably start charging for those, but I hope in the meantime that you'll accept this free gift. I thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks guys. Bye.